Welcome to the Retail Media Moguls podcast, brought to you by Platform 195. We share trends and strategies across retail media to help you accelerate your brand growth. I'm your host, Stuart Adamson. Welcome to the Retail Media Moguls podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Adamson, founder and CEO of Platform 195. Today, we're delighted to welcome Greg Deacon, Vice President of Retail Media Groups and Business Development at Snappy Shopper. Greg brings a wealth of experience at the intersection of retail media and quick commerce, having spearheaded innovative strategies that have significantly impacted the retail, convenience and hospitality sectors. With a career spanning leadership roles at Snappy Shopper, GISP and prominent media organisations, Greg has consistently driven growth through strategic audience partnerships and pioneering retail media initiatives. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me. Great intro, by the way. Not sure I could beat that. What's on?
There was a whole other paragraph in here, but let's cut to the chase. So tell us a bit about that background, because obviously it's always nice to hear people's journeys and how they've ended up in retail media. Obviously, it's relatively new.
I guess my journey has not been probably a career that's been laid out deliberately. I think I started off after school and had half the hopes of being a professional footballer and quite quickly realised that probably wasn't going to happen. Fell into sort of retail convenience on the agency side, working with small convenience stores. So walking into a store and trying to get them to buy, that time, Unilever products. So it was everything from a Pepperami to a pot noodle. So some big, powerful brands. And that gave me my first entry into retail and experiencing the cold face, actually, of what retailers were going through, and very much around small shops. Then, as I sort of felt that this was a career worth pursuing, I ended up working in the sort of publishing industry, actually, and I spent 10 decades with Telegraph Media Group and News UK. And I think this is where I started to get the bug for media solutions, which predominantly then was print-led, soon to become more digital-led. And then I sort of found myself, through starting a family, moved into a much more retail B2B role with National Lottery. So sort of my background then was very much corporate, big brands that were synonymous with people in retail, but gave me a real good platform to work with a cross-section of the industry, both convenience, wholesale and grocery. And then more recently spent a lot of my time non-for-profit and then in startup, where I got to really play with media and media solutions, whether it's through traditional propositions like print media, digital media website, and then more recently when I was at GISP, launching convenience's first augmented reality solution in physical stores, again, going back to my roots, which was convenience, independent retail. And then I've ended up at Snappy Shopper. And I guess the reason I've ended up at Snappy Shopper is to drive that quick commerce retail media solution, as well as other things that I do for the organization, but bringing all those learnings over a sort of 20-year career now, I think, showing me age somewhat, but getting to that point of actually how do we bring audiences together in the most difficult and most fragmented channel, utilizing the power of our technology to do so. And that's kind of my career has always been spent building and harvesting great relationships, and that trust and that support then has been given to me in kind by the channel that I've been working in. And now I've sort of given something back to them actually by helping them grow their businesses, working with the leading FMCG brand in the sector.
So just for our listeners, tell us what the Snappy Shopper premise is. What is it? What sort of reach does it have? What does it do?
Snappy Shopper is a quick commerce platform that was born just before the pandemic, actually, and accelerated during the pandemic. And it's got some real big supporters like Justin King, obviously CEO of Sainsbury's, who's an investor and on the board. We provide a quick commerce technology to convenience retailers in the main. We do have a white label business, and we do power some of the more recognized brands on the high street like German Doner Kebab and Brewdog, for example. But what we're kind of synonymous with is Snappy Shopper now, which is a marketplace quick commerce platform likened to Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber Eats. We provide technology to small SMEs through to large corporates, and soon to be rolling out next week with One Stop, actually. So we're famous for providing that technology to small shops, our software, which gives them the ability to connect to audiences locally. So anyone within a sort of 3-mile radius of that store can download the Snappy Shopper app, place an order for groceries and other items, and have it delivered within 60 minutes.
So at the moment. So what's the mission with regarding monetization then from a retail media perspective?
Well, firstly, I think the monetization part is secondary to the core mission, which is how do we drive GMV each week? How does that complement and support that? How do we provide the very best platform to our retailers? So they're very much key to our vision and mission. And then obviously the consumers, who it's an interesting one for us. Are they a Snappy Shopper consumer or are they the retailer's consumer shopper? So we very much built it store by store. So from a monetization perspective with Snappy, we built out our proposition using our own proprietary tech. And then we work with FMCG brands, CPG, the big guys in the UK, as well as challenger brands to execute their campaigns or their message to that audience. But we're very considerate really of the audience, which is our retailers. So if we're promoting brands that our retailers don't stock, that's not a cool thing. And trying to get them to stock up on something takes a lot of doing. So what we try and utilize is what we know is core to our retail community, give them an added reason to keep stocking that brand and then promoting it. And I think then we get into the sweet spot really for Snappy Shopper, which is that retailer then taking to their own social platforms and promoting that brand and promoting our service. And the monetization though is very much around giving the retailers the best brands we can offer, the customers great deals and promotions, and then providing those brands then with intrinsic value that helps them drive the sales in, sales out.
So if I was a brand and I was coming to you and saying, look, what sort of products do you offer from a retail media point of view? What would you be talking to me about?
So I think firstly, we would have what is kind of core proposition is our in-app media. It's our ability to put their brand front and center of the consumer on that shopping journey. So that's everything from pop-up, push notifications, banner advertising, both on the homepage of that particular store or in category. Then you get into sort of keyword, sponsored products, recommended checkout, email, SMS. And that's both B2B and B2C actually. So we talk directly to our retailers in that community, giving them reasons to stock this brand, what this brand is offering, the timeframes and the deals. And then from a consumer perspective, we do likewise. But that's all in closed loop in our media network. And then I think secondly, the second advantage to the brands is the insights and data. We're very transparent with that. So every key metric we provide back to the brand, pre, during, post, in terms of the added value of support we give there. And they have access to that themselves. So they can see in real time what their performance of their brands is doing in our platform. So they can see their average selling price, they can see the number of products sold, they can see their brand incidence, their category share, performance. And we think that's really important to drive that trust and equity in this sector and drive that transparency, which I believe gives them a lot of confidence then of using our platform to drive their brand imperatives.
And how does that compare to your competitor set then in terms of that insight and reporting? Are they doing that, do you think?
Well, I think this is one of the challenges with the sector. I'm not sure we're all doing it very well or consistently. And I think that sometimes can create certain perceptions which form realities in brands, which is, well, I tried it elsewhere and it didn't work for me and these are the reasons why. And sometimes you're at the mercy of what the others are doing, actually. So I think we all need to do a better job of talking up the value and the opportunity with data and how transparent are we with it. I think we also have to make sure we set it up correctly to be able to offer what the brands need. And like I say, some of those things I've already mentioned is what the brands are asking for. So give them what they want. Now, some charge for it because they believe their data is very valuable. Some will provide it as added value service as part of working with us. And that's what we do. So we believe truly in really strong long-term partnerships. I want to use the data as a power of good because I've got a responsibility, not just for Snappy, but for our retailers in that community. So how do I leverage that with brands to get them to do more and get them to do the right things at the right time? So I would say overall, the sort of score report would say could do better, I think, as an industry and operators and propositions within it. I believe that we're doing a really good job, actually, of driving that trust and equity and confidence. And I truly believe that that data then unlocks incremental value to all. So if we can do that and be consistent with it and everyone can standardize it to a point, I think that would help brands and retailers in our community.
I agree with that. I think, anything that's for the betterment of that measurement is good. And it's good to actually see you starting on that level of reporting. Because you're right, it just builds transparency. The transparency builds the trust that you need in order to keep that business growing year on year. When you're talking to your partners, is it generally going brand direct, or are you going via the media agencies generally, given that you're not the actual retailer, you're more of a conduit? How are you finding that approach to market?
Really great question. We've been doing this now for coming up to a couple of years, and everything we've done to date is direct. So we've built the relationships with the brands, and we've gone in at various different levels of entry. What we've found is that really we are operating with the trade marketing investments. So giving that alternative way of driving product from shed, wholesale to store, which obviously benefits the brands. And then how do we get their product out to consumer delivered, which is all picked and packed from the store. And that fundamentally is trade media, marketing monies. And that's been direct. What we do recognize in some instances where it depends on the structure of the brands, that we can go into a quick commerce, e-com, shopper marketing, brand media, but it's very few and far between. So I think that's still forming within the brand world. And that could change then our direction of travel in terms of how we're perceived and how we're seen. And I think it goes back to that data. We can do so many different things. It just depends where the budget holders sit within that organization. But what we've done a very conscious job of is actually let's challenge the norm of how we can sell within this space. Let's challenge the norm of how we can sell more product out of a physical box, even though we're a digital entity that's all the product is coming from that store off the shelf. And I think that gives real opportunity then to the brands who have their convenience grocery channel strategies that's inclusive of wholesale and sort of sales out from stores. And I think we play a really complementary supporting role in where I do see us moving forward. And I do recognize that we perhaps lose a lot of revenue opportunity with the trade desk and others, that we've not got that self-serve media capability with the agencies. But what we've been very conscious of is to start this and build trust, build equity, build confidence, is basically build it from the ground up. Let's get into the brands, drive that brand message, drive that proposition that we're providing, which gives then various stakeholders within that community the confidence and the trust they need. And then we'll start adding layers. And I think at the right time, then we'll start to explore going beyond that direct approach. But I certainly don't want to lose it, because I think it's a much greater way of doing business. It's not a transaction, it's a partnership. You're starting to get into really deep level joint business plans in this sector, in this channel, which I think, again, would always add advantages to our retailers and then on to our consumers. I don't want to be seen as just a transaction by the brands. So there's a balance to be played there, Stuart. I think we're at the moment are doing a good job, but of course, there are more revenues to be obtained and opportunities to serve our customers in different ways, off-site or on-site. And I think that's interesting for us as we move forward.
I think you've got that right. I think ultimately there is a trade marketing budget there. They want to do stuff that's going to help drive sales and get that awareness of the product up within that retail environment. And actually, there's no route to market really when you've got lots and lots of these smaller convenience stores. So actually, you get an aggregator like you come in. It's a great way for them to carve off some budget and say, well, let's test this and try this. And this is a good way to get into that sort of grassroots stuff, all the corner shops and the smaller convenience stores. It's low hanging fruit for you. It's actually easier in many ways than going to the media agencies and trying to knock on doors. But that will come as you grow, I guess.
Exactly. As we scale up, it will start to differentiate somewhat. But I think in the scaling up of what we're offering, and then unifying that fragmented universe of different fascia, symbol fascia in that convenience channel, actually for anyone in that channel who's a convenience lead, a retail lead, actually this is a great way for me to test and learn, as you say, a great way to understand my audience better. Actually, truly interesting for us, talking to a lot of brands around pack formulation, who's buying what, because actually a lot of convenience is on the go. So it's smaller bottle sizes like 500ml bottles, 330ml cans in store because it's consumed now and people can't typically carry out a lot of product. So they're buying for lunch, they're buying for breakfast, they're buying after school. Whereas in the Snappy world, we have a slightly different alternative customer, still a convenience customer, mum, 30 plus, buying on behalf of the family. But what you're seeing is bigger pack formulation. So it's actually complementing some of their strategies from an in-store environment, which is saying, well, actually, I'm selling more of 1.5 litres. I'm selling more of multi-packs, bigger multi-packs of crisps. And that's because it's being delivered. So it's much more convenient. So when you then start to play that out, and that's why I love the fact that we can then start getting a bit gritty, a bit deeper into those sort of joint business plan discussions around, well, actually, what could Snappy offer us that's alternative to our current strategy, but complements it, that actually gives us a much broader reach in our portfolio to drive sales in, sales out. And actually for the retailers then, dare I say it, some of these things that sit on shelf, not gather dust, but are slower rate of sale, we can help accelerate that. And that then supports retailers' margin, it supports brands. And I think that's a really interesting opportunity for a lot of brand owners out there. When they're thinking about the channel, it's not just about consume now, it can be consumed later, much more likened to a grocery shop.
And what about sort of leveraging that retailer network? And when we're talking about in-store activity and things like that, is there an opportunity there? Are you looking at that and how you might leverage those convenience stores to create a sort of in-store network?
With a name like Snappy Shopper, I think we'll very much be looking towards the future of we can do things in-store and online. We're launching loyalty at the moment, Snappy Rewards. Whether it's going to be called that in the future, we don't know yet. But we're very much thinking about actually how do we bring that out of home or home customer into a store environment, if it's convenient for them to do so. And equally, how do we install a customer online? And how does that then drive real stickiness to that store and loyalty to that store? So I do see us move into that space in the near future. I think with our technology, there's an enablement there. We've integrated with a number of EPOS companies. We've done the hard yards in terms of connecting technologies from a store environment, which helps us on price, availability, stock management. And I think naturally then with a name like Snappy Shopper, why couldn't you shop in store and online and get the benefits? And I think that can then really add different alternative media capability then to the brands. Not only is this at the moment seen as pure play online, quick commerce, actually can support our in-store play of driving footfall back into a store and driving that rate of sale for our brand. So without giving too much away, I think it's an interesting opportunity for us. And as we build real value in a number of cases, we're up to 45% of the weekly sales is delivered in some of these stores. Actually, for these retailers, then communicating Snappy Shopper from an in-store environment perspective, or getting that benefit to be rewarded in store using the Snappy Shopper app as a form of membership, I think is rather compelling, actually.
Definitely. So what's the scale of the business in terms of users and customers?
Yeah, so at the moment, we do roughly analyze just over 100 million sales. We have just over 1,000 stores in the UK. We have a high penetration as a Scottish founded business in Scotland. And I think we're pretty famous in Scotland with a big penetration of stores there. But as we start to do more in England and Wales and Northern Ireland, and as we move further towards the south and London, I think that's going to be really interesting. One of the key things for us is that we offer shelf pricing. So it's not inflated with Snappy because of that low fee structure that we have with the retailers. They're able to actually to off the shelf pricing to consumers. And that's a key differentiation for us. So that drives good loyalty locally for the retailer, price promise. They don't feel that they are ripping their customers off, shall we say, to provide a service that can be them locally. And as we expand, we believe that we'll soon be at 2,000 stores. And then we're getting into the realms of, at the moment, around 340,000 orders a month. That will soon be 500,000 plus. And to your earlier question, we're not just trying to scale a really great quick commerce business. We're trying to scale a really great business for retail. And through our partnerships with third-party logistics, tech partners, integrations, EPOS, that'll help us scale and go beyond. And obviously this summer, from July, we're rolling out with One Stop nationally, which is our first national rollout of a convenience chain or a national retailer in this network. And I think there'll be many more to come, which will help drive our growth.
Fantastic. Tell us about how you're leveraging those third-party logistics. Presumably that's the delivery teams. How do you do that piece?
That's interesting. So we've got an alternative model to some of the aggregators in the marketplace. We don't offer last mile delivery. We don't recruit drivers. There's no Snappy Shopper bags and people out there delivering Snappy Shopper goods that are employed by Snappy. And there's a big reason behind that, because that's something that we want to get into. I think the costs and everything in that space are tricky. But what we then done is we know there's friction for retailers offering delivery and having to do it themselves. So we provide all the technology to be able to offer delivery via their own drivers in a store, their own staff, or recruitment of staff locally. But we've recently been working hard to integrate with the likes of Uber Direct, Stuart Delivery, and other middleware aggregators that can fulfill that delivery at the last mile. So a retailer can pick and pack it in store and focus on that part. And then a driver will turn up to the store to deliver it on their behalf. And that will all be done within 60 minutes of order. And that's given us that sort of next phase of our growth, actually, as more mature, disciplined corporate groups don't want to offer delivery themselves because the cost implications. They want much more agile, responsive service, and we can provide that. But we still have 98% of our stores at the moment are delivering it themselves with their own staff, which helps them own the last mile, helps them understand the customer, provide a great service. And that also supports the retention. But the technology that we've integrated with just means that we're much more accessible now and removes that frictional barrier to use Snappy. And that, again, supports our growth.
Fantastic. Tell us about that white label. You mentioned you had German doner kebab in there and things. See, that's effectively a white labeled e-commerce site, is it, that you're offering there?
Yeah, e-commerce app. So we both provide that from a retail and a hospitality perspective. So Snappy Technologies is a bit more than just Snappy Shopper, actually. And so we power the German doner kebab app. We do the likes of Brewdog now, in-store bars, ordering capability. We have a number of entities across hospitality, restaurants, hotels, as well as more recently stadiums, and the ability to watch a football match and order at halftime using our technology. And we even power in the Caribbean, yet to get a trip out there, I must add, but we do power in the Caribbean, KFC, Subway, and Pizza Hut sort of proposition. So we've got that white label technology, and I do see a move to that. You've seen it already in hospitality with lots of McDonald's. So we provide white label technology to retailers. That's part of the service we can offer. So retailers want to own that communication, that marketing, then we provide the same technology on Snappy, offering that quick commerce. And the difference that we have is that in hospitality, we do order a table.
So are you actually leveraging that from a retail media point of view yet? So obviously it's a big opportunity in there potentially.
It is, yeah. It's slightly different for us because obviously in the hospitality side, it's much more of a SaaS model. So it's a very different model for us. But from a technology perspective, and you'll see the sort of, as retail media grows and matures and definitely seen as a revenue driver for hospitality clients, I think that there will be a movement for that. And I do see that as a big opportunity. German doner kebab, Brewdog, powerful names on the high street. You can see that brands will be wanting to put their brand front and center of the shoppers that are coming into those spaces and driving conversion and basket incidents. So I think watch this space. I think that will come over the next 12 months. And as these businesses look to drive different revenue models, they'll want to utilize platforms that they have highly adopted customers using and growing as well as they're alongside their install play as well.
I think it's really interesting. It's an interesting space. I'm yet to see it work. We've got a few clients that they have got their own entity and then they've also got the white label, and we've helped guide them on how they can monetize that white label. The focus is always on the core business, and you sort of have to wait for scale on the white label. But it is an opportunity, you're right, and it could be really, really big. It just tends to be patience and then hoping the business just invests in that area a bit, because often resources get put to the main brand and things like that. But it's exciting.
Where I see another opportunity, which I think hasn't really matured yet, is obviously even if we're a marketplace aggregator or there's other aggregators being offered in that environment. So if I take One Stop as an example, soon to be offering Snappy Shopper, Just Eat, Uber Eats and Deliveroo from a single store. Why can't retail media actually be pushed across those platforms at the same time it's in store? And actually, how does that retail leverage the power of other marketplaces and aggregators to the benefit of the brands, to the benefit of them? Because everything goes back to driving more sale. But actually, how can they sell that media at the same time that actually can be sold on behalf of One Stop, but is serviced then in Snappy Shopper? And I think that's going to be a really interesting play, because to the earlier question around how do we get it, at the moment we go direct. Well, why can't we work with our retail partners who have already got those ready established relationships that then can service content in a closed loop way through that fascia in that marketplace? And I think that's a real compelling opportunity for retailers to drive more sales, more customers, but more revenues, working collaboratively with the likes of ourselves and other aggregators to get more of their share of brand monies that's available, and then providing more value back to those brands.
Are any of them doing that at the moment? Are they even thinking like that?
I think there's a few out there that I think through agency approach, you look at Co-op with SNG, they're looking to do that. I think we've done a few occasions with the likes of Scott Mid in Scotland, the Cooperative up their society, a number of activations. Their trade teams have arranged that then flows into our platform because we're a technology provider. We'll be able to do that quite seamlessly and easily, even though it can feel quite manual. They provide us an asset, we upload it into our platform, and out it goes then to the consumer. So I think we're at the early stages of that, especially in convenience, but I can see how that will grow and manifest. And I think for the retailers, rather than them waiting for us to do something, I think they could take charge. And then part of their joint business plans, actually, I think they can foster stronger, deeper relationships, utilizing that data both in-store and online, because at the moment, that online will be removed from that story. It'll be removed from that joint business plan discussion. It'll be there. They'll say, oh, we've got Snappy Shopper, but actually you can now advertise through Snappy as part of our joint business plan. And I think that could be a quick fire way of getting more brands and through their account teams, utilizing technology and quick commerce as a solution to winning that channel and that customer. So I expect it to grow, but I think it's very early days at the moment.
Great stuff. So tell me about the tech. So you talked about you've built a proprietary stack, is that right?
Yeah, so it's all Snappy Shopper. So everything we do, how we schedule, how we maintain, how we do it by time of day, store specific, fascia specific, location specific, we've built it all ourselves. There's a benefit and curse to that, of course. We've got to try and keep that maintained and moving with the market and the pace of the market. But I think we're really proud of what we've created so far that works and it's proven to work. And we can pretty much guarantee success to a brand on a sort of 2-to-1, 3-to-1 ratio from their investment to uplift in sales. But as I said earlier, I think we will have to consider ways in which we can reach more of the opportunity in the marketplace. But we've held off so far as we're scaling up. And I think that's been to our benefit as we learn as well, because no one's really a true expert yet, right, on this. We're all forming ideations, we're all exploring, we're all learning, we're building knowledge and capability quickly. And the benefit of doing it yourself is that you can do that a lot faster. So you can see what's working, not working. You're in control of it, actually. And like I say, it's a bit unique for us because we do see ourselves as having that responsibility on behalf of that store. So whether that's a Nisa store in Dundee through to a Spa store in the Southwest, anything we do in our platform, we've got to recognize is that going to have a benefit. Are they going to feel that benefit? Because then the retailers are much more likely to do more for us. And of course, we've extended that media into the social space with these retailers, which I think is a nice USP for us as well, where these retailers are then taken to Facebook, talking to a community locally to them. And these retailers, corner shops, if you want to call them that, have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 followers. And that's a hyper local. And if they're saying to a consumer, hey, you can come and buy this product for this price, we then see a surge to our platform. And of course, we're offering that at the right time, so the retailer are more likely then to push it. And that then drives the marketing and the awareness of our platform locally. And I think that's something that's an extension of what we build. I think that will develop over time as well.
So have you got any plans then to bring in any third-party sort of retail media tech then? Or is it, at the moment, it is, let's see what we've got? Or are you sort of exploring it at all?
We're exploring it. Yeah, having lots of good conversations at the moment. There's a lot of entities out there, shall I say. And there are some of the more mature retailers that have gone with some of the bigger players in that space. It's under constant review, but I think within the sort of next 6 to 12 months, we'll have to make moves. And not because, dare I say, we're a whore to the revenue. I think it's just where the market is heading. So we have to ride that way with the market, but still stay true to our roots and what we've built, which is really credible, really valuable, and just create that blended approach between the two that actually offers a great proposition to our retailers and our customers and to our brand partners as well. So I think, yes, is the short answer. We will be looking at it, and it's just quite an interesting crowded market. So who to choose, why to choose them, when to choose them are all the core considerations at the moment.
I mean, it's a natural evolution is to start with your own platform, and then as things get bigger, you start to realize that, you know, there's only a certain amount of dev time you can put in your own business. But that's really exciting. So tell me, how big is the team now, Greg? Are you well resourced, or are you still fighting for people?
In case the co-founders are listening to this, I'm not fighting for people. I think we're being very considerate about how we resource up and how we scale up. Our plan is to get to profitability very quickly. So we've got to be considerate of that and how we scale. But the team at the moment is very small. So we just hired a second person in sales. So we have 2 people out there selling and building relationships and partnerships with the brands. And then we have 1 person that does all the scheduling and reporting. So a team of 3 and a bit of me, quite frankly. So a very small team doing what I would call a remarkable job right now of managing partnerships, prospecting new, reporting and driving added value. So we'll have to be considerate of that. I think that's where self-serve and other capabilities are really interesting for me in terms of how much more resource do we need versus can the technology do stuff for us? At the same time, people are doing business with people. So we've got to bring great people into our business who are really authentic, get it, understand it, and can really help our partners across the sector. And really, I've got a great business at this moment in time. Like I say, I'm not a whore for the revenue. It's like, no, let's build really great partnerships. Let's really truthfully understand where we're going. Let's ensure that our partners feel supported and have added value from us. And at the same time, Stuart, we get to learn lots because we get to try different things. We've built certain propositions, we've built certain campaigns, and some of them we never thought would actually materialize into a long-standing thing, and they have become long-standing parts of our proposition. And then it's well supported and promoted by the brands that are working with us. So I'd say at the moment, we'll continue to monitor resource. I'm sure my team would ask for more people, like everyone does. But at this moment, I think the feedback that we're getting is really positive. So considered scaling will be part of our journey. And as long as we keep being successful, I'm sure the business will continue to support that.
Absolutely. It's the right approach. And the great thing is you started it from 3 people and then we'll check back in 2 years and it will be 10 times the size. So it's going to be an exciting journey for you, I think. But I look back on the Thomas Cook stuff, that was me. And then it was 2 or 3 people. And then it was suddenly 70 people and turning over 100 million. It was amazing how quickly, and that was in the space of 6, 7 years. So, I mean, it was just a pretty slow and then suddenly very fast because suddenly the belief comes and they start seeing the cash and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see that sort of hockey stick approach from launch and people trying to understand what it is that we're offering and how we're different to some of the other competitors in that space. And I think you're starting to see that hockey stick approach and you're starting to see, okay, things are moving quick. We're recruiting new brands constantly, big and small. And I love the fact that we're working with challenger brands. We're bringing new entries to the market. And that's actually something that we're offering as well in terms of some of our partnerships with wholesalers that we've created and retail groups. So we've done that recently as well, helping to launch the likes of Sips drinks into convenience retail. Started a launch with Iceland, and then we've working with Sips and brought them into convenience retail. And they've got now a listing with Stockmid, which is fantastic. And that helps us because that product's then on sale on the Snappy Shopper and customers want it and they're buying it, which is fantastic. But they're the sort of things I really love doing. I love helping the little guy and getting them to market. And actually that creates a point of difference for our platform as well. Not just focusing on the core brands, actually how do we bring new brands to market? And I think that creates different challenges for our business in terms of resource and people. But again, as we scale and as we learn, as we understand, we'll get even better at that. And I think we'll get even more efficient and effective doing it as well.
Brilliant. Just last couple of questions because we've got not much time left. What about that buy-in internally? Has that been a challenge to get in terms of sort of putting retail media and advertising across the app? Or have you had the support there? I mean, how's that been? Because it's never that easy, I don't think.
To be honest, I think this is one of the key reasons for me wanting to join Snappy was the fact that from an executive and CEO, co-founder perspective, give me full autonomy to carve this out and supported us all the way. Both the other co-founders are CTO, so that helps from a tech stack perspective, understanding the relative importance of this, but beginning full autonomy and reign on this. So every time you go into the Snappy app and you see the first banner in the store, that is something that our team has created and worked on. And we've got full reign how we do that. And that's great, to be honest, to have that support and autonomy. And I think that's kind of refreshing. We're not got constraints on what we can do or when we do it. With the business trust that we make the right informed decisions at the right time. So right now, during the Euros, we've got more alcohol being promoted, snacking, of course. And it's just doing things that are just obvious. Retail's not too complicated in terms of the calendar and seasonality and actually understanding what customers want. And of course, we've got all that data, which helps us make better informed decisions. So it's really refreshing. So we've got that freedom to create and we've created propositions. We took our take on Big Night In with sofa sessions because we didn't want to just be about the night. We wanted to be about the weekend. People watching sport, family time, watching movies, watching their favorite TV shows. Actually, let's have a sofa session. So that came out of our brand creative thinking, and the business just allows us to crack on and do it. So I love that. I think that's great. We'll make some mistakes a few times, but more than not, we just get permission to crack on and seek some forgiveness from time to time if I need to.
I love that. I think that's such an important part, that creativity, to sort of grow those budgets over time and build deal sizes, but more importantly, to create the engagement with the customers and also the engagement with your partners, because once that creative piece comes in, it's almost something really tangible rather than sort of throwaway performance advertising. They can see it, they can see the engagement with it, they become emotional around it. And actually, it gives you a heap more metrics to go back to your partner with than just we sold 1% more uplift in product sales or 2% more, whatever it may be. It's a really strong way to help those partners build brand over time and to get that engagement with them.
And we have good patience. I think some of the times digitally you can do things and go, it didn't work, so we'll just switch it off. We won't try that again. And I kind of like to let things breathe a little bit. And one of the things that we let breathe, actually interesting on that creativity, was we know a lot of our customers find it hard, cost of living crisis and budgets, and we see that in what they're ordering and how they're supporting their families and supporting themselves. So we wanted to give something back. So every week, buying core products that are promoted with our brand partnerships, we give the customer a chance to win £500. So you're placing a shop with Snappy, you can spend in £25, £30, but you could win 500. And we do that every single week. And that's one of those things about giving back. It's not necessarily a huge GMV driver for us, but it's the right thing to do. So I think there's things within our media that we've done. And even with some of our partners, we've actually created media which is around their charity. We're taking valuable space, but we're actually saying, no, if someone wants to make a charitable donation that supports your charity of choice, that supports people in your community, then we'll leverage that. We'll use that because it's the right thing to do. And I think that, again, builds better equity and trust for those retailers and customers again. So I think we're making conscious decisions in creative ways, thinking a bit differently about the shopper, but it also comes back to thinking about the shopper in that local connotation. So even though, yes, we're representing brand Snappy across the whole platform, actually we're very cute about how we make conscious decisions in localities or even by fascia. And I love that as well. I think being able to do that and work cross-functionally across our teams to offer that and working with our partners, I think that's all builds up towards that Snappy difference, which I think makes us stand out a bit differently to the crowd.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Greg. I mean, that's just been an amazing podcast, actually. Been really great to get your insight into Snappy Shopper and wider quick commerce retail media bit. Always great to see a media guy as well, who's bridged into the retail media space. Only the best do that, obviously. But yeah, really great, Greg. Thanks for coming on. And as I always say, please do come on again. We'd love to see how you've got in this incredible journey you're on. Please do come back on in a year or so.
Yeah, I'd love to. And hopefully a lot more's happened in that time that we can shout about and reflect on from this podcast. So yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been a joy and hope to be back again soon.
Great. Thanks, Greg. The Retail Media Moguls podcast is brought to you by Platform 195. To learn more about Platform 195 and how to connect retail media with intelligent marketing to accelerate growth, visit platform195.com. And then make sure to search for Retail Media Moguls in Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And on behalf of the team here at Platform 195, thanks for listening.